Ready?
I suppose.
All right, I'm John Crowd
Kirk Allen.
with the Edgar County Watchdogs. Today we're going to talk about Coles County and their assessment issue.
Yeah, they've had quite a little escapade going on there. You know, it's interesting. Every time we get asked to come in and look at things, and we see this everywhere we go, what do we always see the elected officials do when we identify they're breaking the law?
Well, they ignore it, they deny it, make excuses, cover it up, and lie about it.
Yep. In Coles County, we asked for two bids. There was 2 bids on projects for assessments. They didn't publish those out, you know, in the newspaper as required. They just picked 2 people and asked them to submit bids.
Yeah, and we believe it's a violation of the county's code, just the way that the whole process went.
Yeah, one of the FOIAs, they claimed it was not required to be bid because it's professional service.
And definition of professional services, let me read it. The person being hired possessing a high degree of professional skill where the ability or fitness of the individual plays an important part.
Well,
It's
and in
the key of the ability and fitness.
Yep, and in this guy's own words in his bid proposal, my experience has been limited to single property analysis. To ensure competency in mass appraisal development, I will attend 2 classes offered by the International Association of Assessing Officers and read the fundamentals of mass appraisal. To ensure competency. Sounds like he's not the professional service provider they claimed.
Yeah. Well, it's clear he doesn't meet the professional services criteria, and then you have this claim of, well, let me read it word for word. I have 11 years of appraisal experience in commercial, industrial, multifamily, and residential.
Huh, that's interesting. I contacted IDPFR and his real estate appraiser's license was issued January of 2007. Let's see, 11 years? Nope, that's 8 years.
Wait. He wasn't licensed for the 11? Well, it could have been a mix-up. They could have had a computer adjustment and wiped out everything before that. Have you contacted him to see when he was first licensed?
January 4th of 2007.
All right.
Now he said experience though in his bid. He didn't say license.
Oh, okay.
See how that game's played?
He might be covered on that one.
As far as the classes he said he took, it turns out he didn't take any of them until over a year later, assuming the board's telling the truth, because he only took them after we brought to their attention that was an obligation under this contract, and he hadn't done it until we brought that to their attention.
Didn't he say that he had some other classes that were
Equivalent.
Right. So did he actually take those classes?
Well, he just says he has. He hasn't produced any records to support that he has. But the contract that he entered didn't have any equivalency class outlines in it. He said he would take 2 classes from that organization, and then later when he got exposed for not doing it, he tried to justify that he didn't need to because other classes he took were equal to or better than.
All right, so you pointed out in the county board meeting that the law on supervisor assessments did not, and it's our position too, that it was not legal for the county to contract with anyone else to do the supervisor's assessments job.
Correct.
Basically, and the state attorney said he'd get back with you, and he really never did.
2 months of silence.
But if you read the county's code, it's clear. She's only allowed to hire with approval or consent of the board.
Appoint necessary deputies and clerks and their compensation to be fixed by the county board and paid by the county. And with advice and consent of the county board.
Exactly. With advice
Section
and consent.
35 ILCS 200/3-40.
Yep.
So once they got exposed, they were breaking that law, they started changing what their position was.
And that took them 2 months, and they didn't say anything. Then the last meeting, the state's attorney and the county board, I believe it was the chairman, kept pointing to the supervisor assessments that the person who hired Becker
Hired?
and and if there were questions, that people need to talk to the supervisor assessments. The state attorney, county board chairman, supervisor assessments now claim he is an employee. And what's interesting, when it all went down at county board meeting, we'll show you the video in a second, I kind of caught on pretty fast. They were being asked questions about his status and the contract, and somebody reiterated that they can't contract with somebody to do the supervisor assessment's job. And then the state attorney was alluding that, well, it's not a contract, it was only a proposal so we just approved the proposal. It wasn't a contract, and that he's an employee. And I think, was it you that asked if he had any employee perks?
Yeah, county benefits.
County benefits, and then there was, no, he's a part-time employee.
Let's watch the video.
That's the way it works. I only got a couple of questions. Mr. Becker, in his contract with the county, or his bid proposal, he said that he was going to do 2 courses and read a book. Can you tell me, Mr. Chairman, did he go ahead and finish the coursework, and was it a passing grade as his contract stipulated?
Mr. Becker was not hired by the county board, he was hired by the assessor.
That's fine, but it was to the county board that I read the communication. He was going to read a book and complete 2 courseworks classes.
He has done that.
No, he hasn't.
When I spoke with him last week, he said he had.
Well, I've got the email correspondence. He's acknowledged he didn't take them.
When was your email correspondence?
Last week.
I spoke with him about,
He took some courses that he said were equivalent to.
well, I spoke with him a couple of weeks ago, and at that time, he had not taken the courses you're referring to.
Right.
I advised him that he needed to get that done. I did not call back to double check that he didn't complete them yet.
What does that do to the contract? What does that do to the contract if he doesn't do what he says he'll do?
What contract?
The contract the county board approved that wasn't on the agenda.
Agree, disagree on whether it was on the agenda or not, but with regard to the contract, there was a bid proposal that the county board approved the bid proposal.
Is that not a contract between the county board and the guy that's doing the assessment? Did you not contract him to do a reassessment?
I believe that Ms. Biddle, as the assessor, hired him.
When I FOIA requested the contract, they said there was no contract, only a bid proposal.
Right. There is a bid proposal.
That was approved by the board, and on the May 12, 2015 meeting it was approved.
That was approved by the board. That bid proposal was approved by the board.
So that's the contract.
I think what they're saying is you need to address the questions to the supervisor assessments and instead of the county board chairman
I mean, maybe it's an argument of semantics, but he is associated with the assessor's office, not with the county board. There's a separation.
And the way sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
The way I'm understanding the conversation is there some attempt to claim that he's an employee of the supervisor of assessments now?
Yes, that's what he said.
So you'll have a W-2 from last year
I will attend the treasurer's office for that.
instead of a 1099? Okay, thanks.
It's not a W-2.
It's 1099.
So he's an independent.
Employees get W-2s, not 1099s.
W-2 is one factor in it, looking at determining independent contractor employee status. It is a factor, you're correct. But there's other factors such as location, control, supervision, and things of that nature.
Okay,
It's a question of facts.
thanks.
One last comment. I would suggest and hope that the board members would go to our meeting. I had the privilege of doing my board of review meeting, and we taped it. And if you'll go to Coles County Board meeting on YouTube, you'll be able to watch the Board of Review in action. And I'll let you draw your own conclusions of what you think after you watch the video.
Thank you. Rex Duplin.
I just want to go back to the topic as far as Mr. Becker's. If if he didn't complete the courses, maybe he just has in the last week or so, then how can the assessments that he has done for Mattoon Township be honored? Couldn't be qualified, could he? And that wasn't the agreement that you had with him.
The bid proposal explicitly says that by completing these 2 courses and reading the fundamentals of mass appraisal, that should bring up, I want to get this right. He said by doing that, that should bring up his competency in doing mass appraisal. But if he just finished it post the township being appraised, I have a problem with that. I saw the email communication too. Mr. Becker is claiming that he took other courses that were equivalency courses. He's making that determination, but that's not what the bid was contingent upon. He admits in the bid that he's never done mass appraisals, but doing these courseworks and doing the reading the book would bring him up to speed. Now we find out that he hasn't even done it, and he's already gone through a full assessment of Mattoon Township, but nobody seems to have a problem with that.
Will you be throwing out the assessments?
No. They've been rolled over to the county clerk already.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just real quick, in regards to Mr. Becker's employment, is he receiving county employee benefits? He's not?
I do not know.
Temporary part-time.
So he's a part-time employee? I thought it was for a year, but maybe it was 4 years.
It's a 4-year contract.
Okay.
So it is a contract.
Now, this whole ordeal, they've gone from, they don't have to bid it out, they create all these excuses. It's obvious that it's a contract, they're referring it as a contract in response. No notice to the public of the job opening for the county, because they said he's an employee, so we asked for job openings. Nothing was published on a job opening, no employment application, no W-2, they've yet to provide a 1099.
No W-4.
No W-4, and best of all, if he was hired as an employee, why'd they use the excuse of professional services as a reason not to put it out for bid? You don't put employment hirement out for bid anyway.
Yeah, and then again, we asked if he was receiving any county employee benefits.
And that was where it got so interesting. We were told, no, he's part-time. Well, I said it's a pretty good gig, part-time, to draw $115,000 a year.
And then the county board chairman set the record straight. That was
That
not, I mean, that fast. That's not per year. That was for 4 years and 4 years due to the contract.
He said it's a 4-year contract.
That's right.
Wait a minute. I thought there was no contract. He knew it was a contract and they got caught is what happened. This non-published bid proposal turned into a contract that turned into a part-time employment agreement has a few things that are missing out of it.
Like working hours that he's expected to work, the date for employment beginning and ending, when payments due. I mean, how do they know when to pay? I mean, he's an employee, he should be getting paid regularly, whether they weekly or bi-weekly.
Well, records show that he's getting paid quarterly, but we'll get to that because it gets better. With no term listed in the proposal whatsoever as far as how long the guy works, 1 year, 2 years, or 4 years, as the chairman said. I don't know where they came up with this idea that it was a 4-year deal. And if that's not all crazy enough, can anyone point to an employee of a public body that submits invoices to get paid? And what's that say on the bottom of that invoice?
There was an employee in Shelbyville Township, it was an attorney submitted an invoice. No,
She got busted out. She wasn't. But what's this say on the bottom of that invoice?
Thank you for your business.
Now, why would an employee send in an invoice to get paid and then say, thanks for your business? No, it's a contract. He's getting paid as a contractor. He's submitting invoices as the contractor. It's evident he's not an employee like these people claim. I think the IRS and Department of Revenue are probably going to have a field day with this deal because it's evident they're wanting to call him an employee. They've said that in the public meeting. The head of the public body stated it, but there's no records anywhere to support that he was ever hired as an employee.
Well, there was a mention about, he's a 1099 employee, not a W-2 employee, because he uses his own, the difference is if you use your own tools and you have control of your own tools, but wait, the county bought the main tool that he uses, which is the DevNet software. They lease that software pursuant to the proposal,
Yep,
and he gets to log on to the software to do his work. So that the main tool,
and it says right in his first paragraph, I submit this bid. Why would he submit a bid on employment? Contingent upon the county board approving a switch to software vendors to DevNet, computer-assisted mass appraisal software.
yeah, and
And they did it, and he got the contract.
I don't know. So, yeah, it's kind of,
They've been caught.
yeah, and I don't think they were trying to CYA and,
What was it we said right there in the beginning? What do they always do when they get caught? First they ignore us, which they did, then they try to deny it, then they make excuses, then they cover it up, and then they lie. And they've done every single one of them, and that, it never fails. You can predict these people every single time.
so, we'll provide an update when we get one.
Have a good one. Happy Easter.
Thanks.